the quiet teachings of the world. Freddy's trip to his grandpa's house was always something special. Nestled at the edge of the village, his grandpa's home sat like a quiet observer of time, surrounded by sprawling fields, dense woods, and a peaceful river that wound its way through the valley. The only sounds that could break the stillness were the chirps of crickets, the distant calls of birds, and the occasional rustle of wind sweeping through the trees. For Freddy, who lived in the hustle and bustle of the city, it was an escape, a place where he could forget about school, friends, and the noise of urban life, and instead immerse himself in something far more tranquil. One day, as the soft light of late afternoon filtered through the curtains of his grandpa's study, Freddy sat beside him, playing with a small, smooth stone he had found by the river. His grandpa was always reading, always thinking, always at peace. Freddy, on the other hand, was full of questions, questions that seemed to have no end, questions that spilled from his mouth in an unrelenting stream. "Grandpa," Freddy began, looking up from his stone, "make me your disciple." The old man looked up from his book, his wrinkled face softening into a gentle smile. "Why do you want a teacher?" he asked, his voice slow and calm. "Open your eyes. Look around you. Everything in this world carries a message for man. The flowers, the trees, the mountains, and the rivers, they all add to our knowledge of God and his ways." Freddy, somewhat skeptical, narrowed his eyes. "Everything, everything," the grandpa replied, his tone calm but firm. "Even the smallest things in nature have a lesson for us. The world itself is the greatest teacher." Freddy didn't fully understand, but his grandpa's words intrigued him. He leaned back in his chair, deep in thought, as the breeze swirled through the open window. The silence between them seemed to stretch, as if the world itself was waiting for something. Then, as if on cue, a long whistle echoed in the distance. The sound grew louder, drawing closer, and soon the sharp hiss of the train's wheels on metal filled the air. A streak of silver flashed by the window, the train racing towards its destination. And just as quickly, it was gone, leaving behind only the quiet. "What can we learn from a train?" Freddy challenged, looking at his grandpa with curiosity. The old man nodded slowly. "Be late for a moment, and you miss it. Such is the importance of a moment," he said. "A train moves with purpose, Freddy. It doesn't stop for anyone. The world is always moving, always changing, and if you don't pay attention, you might miss something important. Every second counts." Freddy thought about that for a while. The train had come and gone so quickly. If he'd blinked, he might have missed it. It was a strange thing to think about. But the more he mulled over his grandpa's words, the more they made sense. After a long silence, Freddy turned his gaze to the telegraph wires that ran between the poles outside the window, stretching far into the horizon. He had always noticed them, but never really thought much about them. Now, however, he found himself wondering, "What can we learn from the telegraph?" he asked, eyes fixed on the wires. The grandpa's smile widened, and he leaned forward slightly. "The telegraph teaches us that every word is counted and charged. Just like the messages sent over those wires, everything we say carries weight. Every word we speak is like a message sent out into the world. Be conscious of what you say, Freddy. Words have power. They can build or break, heal or hurt." Freddy was silent for a moment, absorbing the thought. He thought about all the words he had spoken in his life, words that had sometimes helped, sometimes hurt, sometimes gone unnoticed. He realized that he had never fully appreciated the weight of his words before. "And what can we learn from the telephone?" Freddy asked, unable to contain his curiosity. The grandpa closed his eyes briefly, as though listening to something beyond the room, something distant. When he spoke, his voice was soft, almost reverent. "The telephone teaches us that what we say here can be heard up there," he said, pointing his finger gently toward the sky. "It reminds us that there are connections we cannot see, yet they are always present. Our words are not just confined to the here and now. They can reach far beyond, to places we cannot even imagine. And sometimes, those words reach places we don't even know exist." Freddy felt a shiver run down his spine. He had never thought of the telephone in such a way. It wasn't just a device for talking, it was a reminder of something bigger, something spiritual. It made him think of all the words he had spoken not just to others, but to himself, the thoughts that no one else could hear. He wondered if they, too, could reach somewhere far beyond his understanding. The evening sky outside had begun to deepen into shades of purple and blue, the first stars twinkling faintly in the growing darkness. The quiet was profound, as if the entire world had paused to listen to the wisdom shared between the boy and the old man. "What about the river, Grandpa?" Freddie asked, his eyes drifting toward the gentle stream that flowed beside the house, its water glinting under the fading light. "What can we learn from it?" The grandpa's eyes twinkled as he gazed at the river. "Ah, the river," he said softly. "The river teaches us that life is constantly moving. The water never stays the same. It flows, adapts, and carries on. It faces obstacles, rocks, branches, or anything else in its way, but it doesn't stop. It finds a way around, over, or through them. The river reminds us that life will not always be easy, but we must keep going. We must move with the current, not fight it." Freddie looked at the river, the water shimmering in the last rays of sunlight. He had never thought of it that way. It was true, the river never stopped. It just kept moving forward, no matter what. "And what about the trees?" Freddie asked, now lost in the beauty of the natural world around him. The grandpa smiled, his gaze soft. "The trees remind us of the importance of roots," he said. "They stand tall because they are deeply rooted in the earth. No matter how strong the wind blows or how heavy the storms come, they remain firm. We, too, must stay rooted in our beliefs, in our values, and in what is true. Without roots, we would be like the branches, swaying with every gust of wind. But with strong roots, we can weather anything." Freddie felt his chest swell with understanding. Everything around him had a lesson. The train, the telegraph, the telephone, the river, and the trees, they all spoke to him, each in its own way, offering wisdom and insight. It was as if the entire world had been his teacher, just as his grandpa had said. As the stars grew brighter above, Freddie sat quietly, contemplating everything he had learned. He realized that his grandpa had given him something far more valuable than just lessons. They had given him a way to see the world differently, to recognize the beauty and the lessons in every small thing around him. "Thank you, Grandpa," Freddie said, his voice soft but full of gratitude. "I think I understand now. The world is full of teachers, and we just have to open our eyes and listen." The grandpa nodded, his smile warm and wise. "You're welcome, Freddie. But remember, this is just the beginning. Keep learning, keep observing, and never stop listening. The world will always have something to teach you." And as Freddie looked out at the world around him, he felt a deep peace settle in his heart. For the first time, he truly understood what it meant to be a disciple, not of a teacher, but of life itself.